Bryce always mysteriously tossed out the fresh eggs, delivered daily by Juli, the girl next door who secretly adored him, until today, she caught him red-handed. "Are those my eggs? Juli, look at your backyard, it's a complete mess, covered in dirt." Juli finally understood he had been trashing her pristine eggs all along. She snatched them back, furious. These were premium, high-priced eggs, but Bryce only saw grossness and dirt. Heartstrings tugged by the unlikeliest paths. Juli never imagined the boy she had adored for years was this superficial and judicial. From that day on, she totally gave up on Bryce. But Bryce was also swallowed by guilt, because that clingy girl always hovering around him was gone. That sticky presence was gone. They first met in the summer of 1957 when Bryce's family moved in. Juli rushed over to help, but Bryce's dad immediately hated this uninvited girl, meeting her enthusiasm with cold sarcasm. Yet, Juli wasn't determined. When they wrestled, their hands accidentally touched. Bryce's bright, starry eyes instantly captured Juli. That was her first flutter moment. Heartstrings tugged by the unlikeliest paths. But Bryce totally freaked out by this close contact. He snatched his hand away and hid behind his mom. At school, Juli was still 100% full throttle. She thought his avoidance was just him being shy and secretly liking her. Soon, they were the model couple everyone talked about. "Bryce, why don't you ask him to marry you?" For the next 5 years, Bryce kept running away. Emotions brew beneath the surface calm. Even though he hated this relationship, he never rejected Juli outright. On the first day of 6th grade, he finally thought of a plan, pretending to flirt with Shelley, Juli's vitality. He tried hard to look close to Shelley whenever Juli was nearby. The tactic worked, Juli's attitude grew cold. But this fake plan failed quickly. Bryce's friend, John, confessed to Shelley, exposing Bryce's true, avoidance motive. Juli saw everything and her password pursuit immediately returned. She'd lean close in class just to smell his watermelon scent. Emotions brew beneath the surface calm. Facing Juli's renewed enthusiasm, Bryce was totally uneasy. Ever since his family moved in, his father constantly mocked Juli's family. To him, they were just messy hillbillies. Their wild, overgrown yard ruined the neighborhood's perfect aesthetic. And Juli's dad, the passionate painter, was mocked as a pathetic artist. Hearing this day in and day out, Bryce also started harboring prejudice against Juli's family. Juli, completely unaware, enjoyed her happiest moments painting in her yard with her loving father. Serendipity at its finest, pulling strings unseen. One day, her dad suddenly asked why she liked Bryce. Juli was speechless. Her father then advised, "To truly know someone, you must look at the whole person. The whole is always more important than the parts." Layers of longing unfold in quiet beauty. Tender revelations. A painting is more than the sum of its parts. A cow by itself is just a cow. Vulnerability meets chance in cinematic grace. A meadow by itself is just grass flowers. And the sun picking through the trees is just the beam of light. Heartstrings tugged by the unlikeliest paths. Where you put them all together and it can be magic. Juli didn't understand her father's deeper point. Until one day, she climbed the old sycamore tree outside her yard to get a kite. The higher she climbed, the wider her view became. The town, bathed in sunset, was stunning, the whole picture was magical. She realized the truth. The whole is greater than the parts. Layers of longing unfold in quiet beauty. From then on, she climbed the tree every day to announce the school bus's location. But Bryce mocked her bizarre behavior and avoided her. Whenever Juli invited him up, he made lame excuses. When she described the beautiful view, Bryce scoffed. "Well, by beautiful you mean unbelievably ugly, then yes, I would agree. You're just a holy challenge." "I feel sorry for you," he sneered. The sycamore was Juli's spiritual sanctuary. But one day, a construction crew arrived. The owner planned to cut it down. Juli hugged the trunk tight, pleading for Bryce's help. "Bryce, please don't let them do this." The narrative's pulse quickens here. Juli begged Bryce for help, but he just stood silently. He couldn't grasp why a tree was so important. Yet, he felt a strange impulse to step up, which his logic quickly smothered. As crowds gathered, and reporters filmed her protest, Juli refused to let go until her father climbed up and gently convinced her to come down. Letting go meant losing her sanctuary. Her heart shattered as the tree fell, crushing her innocence and joy. Juli became silent and gloomy, often zoning out in class. She stopped waiting for the bus near the stump, cycling around the painful spot instead. Romance blooms in the rain's aftermath. Bryce thought he finally got his freedom. But seeing the sheer loneliness in Juli's eyes brought a strange melancholy to his heart. He kept quiet, fearing his concern would break the distance. Weeks later, her father secretly brought in a painting of the tree at its most beautiful. "I never wanted you to forget how you felt when you were up there." Her father's love renewed Juli's hope. The tree meant more than itself. It taught her to re-examine her life. She even questioned her feelings for Bryce, who just turned away that day. Layers of longing unfold in quiet beauty. Later, Bryce's grandpa moved in. He often stared out the window, missing his deceased wife. One day, Grandpa Chet noticed Bryce. He had read about Juli protesting the tree cutting in the paper. He admired Juli's integrity, praising her as a tough girl, and decided he needed to meet her. Romance blooms in the rain's aftermath. And she's pushy beyond belief. Is that so? She's been stalking me since the 2nd grade. A girl like that doesn't live next door to everyone. Lucky them. Bryce tossed the newspaper aside. Soon came the school science fair. Juli chose to hatch chicks, which won first place. She raised the chicks in her yard, and soon the hens produced endless fresh eggs. There were so many, her fridge couldn't hold them. Heartstrings tugged by the unlikeliest paths. Fortunately, neighbors offered high prices for these fresh, free-range eggs. Juli always set aside some to deliver, for free, to Bryce's house. He always opened the door with a dazzling smile, making her think he was waiting for her. Vulnerability meets chance in cinematic grace. Bryce's dad demanded he return them, but Bryce secretly tossed them into the trash every day to avoid confrontation. He rushed to the door daily to intercept them. But lies always come to light. "I'm sorry." Juli's beautiful fantasy crashed into deep humiliation. That night, she asked her parents to fix the yard. Her father said it was the landlord's job. The narrative's pulse quickens here. And it looks so bad. What's going on? They threw my eggs away because they're afraid of salmonella, because our yard is such a mess. Did that boy say that? No, Bryce did. It must have been a family discussion. A boy doesn't come up with that on his own. Who cares what they think? I care. Hearing Juli confess the reason, her mother finally burst out years of suppressed emotion. Layers of longing unfold in quiet beauty. She spoke of working multiple jobs and constantly battling broken, leaking appliances. All this was because her father had an intellectually disabled brother. He was keeping his brother in the best rehab center, honoring a promise, rather than relying on welfare. The argument was the loudest sound ever in that house. A brush with destiny that lingers sweetly. Guilt flooded Juli. Later, Her dad apologized for losing his temperature and shared his brother's story. Juli only then learned she had an uncle with disabilities. Her mom comforted her, praising her dad's resilience and kindness. Juli realized that despite the tough times, their full, vibrant love was her warm strength. A brush with destiny that lingers sweetly. The next morning, Juli started fixing the yard herself. She told herself it wasn't for Bryce, but for beautifying her home. But she couldn't hide her true, complicated feelings. Suddenly, Bryce's grandpa Chet appeared with tools, ready to help prune the yew shrubs. "If you're here because of what Bryce said, I don't need your help." Chet smiled. He understand. This interlude promises more than it reveals. Chet confessed, "Whenever I sat up in the tree with you, you put a set up there all night for me, my wife." Juli accepted his kindness. They worked for weeks. Juli discovered Chet was totally different from Bryce. He helped pull weeds, and they shared the same sharp wit. They talked about the whole is greater than the parts philosophy. Chet agreed but added a twist. Layers of longing unfold in quiet beauty. Not everyone, he noted, is greater than the sum of their parts. Often, the whole loses the sharpness of the parts. Juli observed her classmates, realizing most were indeed less than their parts, but Bryce remained an unsolvable puzzle. Their Cold War dragged on. Bryce saw his grandpa helping Juli. When Chet learned the full truth about the egg incident, Bryce felt the true weight of a mentor's disappointment. One's character is something said. Vulnerability meets chance in cinematic grace. Chet warned, "I hate to see this remark so far you can't swim back. It's about honesty. Sometimes a little disappoint in the beginning can save the whole, ****. Bryce finally understands his passive silence caused Juli immense, quiet pain. Recalling her recent coldness, he realized her distance felt worse than her clinginess. Bryce finally faced his feelings. He sought Juli out. "I'm sorry for what I did. I don't get it, Bryce. Why didn't you just tell me?" Romance blooms in the rain's aftermath. "I don't know, it was dumb. And she said I didn't think about your yard either. Maybe it's all for the best. I've learned so much from Chet. You're lucky. I don't even have grandparents anymore. I feel sorry for him." Juli explained, "He misses your grandma. He says I remind him of her." "What?" "I know, that's what I said. But he means it in a nice way, something about her spirit." But Bryce's evasiveness confirmed her final judgment. He was not a person whose whole was greater than his parts. Whispers of what could be echoed through. Soon after, Bryce's dad mocked Chet for helping a stranger. Bryce defended Chet. Juli reminds him of Grandma. Dad scoffed about the Bakers not fixing their yard because Juli's father was too busy with his paint-by-numbers kit. Bryce replied, "If you had a brother with a severe handicap, what would you do?" Dad dismissed this, mocking the uncle's condition as a chromosomal defect. Chet snapped back, "It has nothing to do with chromosomes." When Juli's uncle was born, the cord was wrapped around his neck. If he had enough oxygen, he would have been perfectly fine, just like yourself. The spark ignites, subtle yet undeniable. Bryce's mother looked devastated. Bryce learned he, too, had suffered from the cord around neck issue at birth. If not for a skilled doctor, he might have suffered the same fate as Juli's uncle. Bryce was horrified, wondering how his father would treat him then ****. Chet took Bryce to the empty lot where the tree once stood. Chet encouraged him not to worry about what didn't happen. Chet looked up, pondering the view Juli loved. He explained that some people are coated in glossy satin paint, while others are flat. But sometimes, you find someone who is a descent. heartstrings tugged by the unlikeliest paths. Chet subtly taught Bryce that inner beauty matters most. This wisdom broke through Bryce's inner cloud. He desperately reread the newspaper clipping, realizing he had never truly entered Juli's heart. He finally wondered what it felt like up in that sycamore tree. The next morning, Bryce's mom suggested inviting the Bakers over for dinner, hoping to make up for past rudeness. Everyone, except the habitually cold father, supported the idea. Bryce felt a strange anticipation. He started thinking about Juli constantly, rereading the paper with her picture. CTA, if you're crushing hard like Bryce, hit that like button. A brush with destiny that lingers sweetly. Even in class, his gaze drifted toward her. This blooming crush made him question if he was truly falling for Juli. When he told John, his friend thought he was freaking mental. Juli Baker? You hate her. What's so weird? I can't stop thinking about her asterisk. Vulnerability meets chance in cinematic grace. John dismissed it as Bryce feeling guilty about the eggs. When Bryce mentioned the disabled uncle, John mocked the Baker family's retarded genes, implying Juli was no different. Bryce froze, unable to speak. Bryce walked home alone, finally understanding his own feelings. John had crossed the line, and right next to him was his father. I didn't care what they thought. I liked Juli Baker. A brush with destiny that lingers sweetly. But his late realization was too late. Juli had been hiding behind the library shelf and heard the whole humiliating conversation. She was utterly heartbroken, but her resolve to move on became firm. Graduation day, Bryce dressed meticulously, but Juli met his enthusiasm with cold indifference.
Welcome to the show.
I heard you and Garrett met in the library. I don't want to speak to you. Not now, not ever. She turned away, leaving Bryce stunned. Romance blooms in the rain's aftermath. Later, Bryce tried to explain at dinner. Did you know what Garrett said? Yeah. What a question. You were in the library. You're supposed to disagree with your friend. They sat facing each other, silent. The mood shattered when Bryce's father mentioned the ugly tree being cut down. Bryce recalled, I wanted to say that a lot of people liked that tree, but I didn't. I didn't want to go against my dad. Romance blooms in the rain's aftermath. Some people thought that tree was the jewel of the neighborhood. You know, there's no accounting for taste, his dad scoffed. Next, Dad mocked Juli's twin brothers who were graduating high school, implying they were lazy. They actually received several music college offers. Hearing about music, Dad softened. Bryce realized his father's sharpness masked his own sadness. He had once dreamed of being a musician. After dinner, Juli politely apologized for her previous coldness, maintaining emotional distance. Bryce realized he no longer made her heart flutter. Heartstrings tugged by the unlikeliest paths. The moment the Bakers left, Dad started mocking them again, claiming they couldn't afford college tuition. When Bryce's sister tried to object, their father slapped her. Witnessing this violence, and recalling his father's harshness, Bryce realized his dad was just hiding his own cowardice. He knew he had to break free from this shadow to protect the people and feelings he truly valued. Next up, the school charity lunch auction. Boys prepare a lunch basket. Girls bid for a chance to eat with them. Bryce suddenly found the boring event exciting when he heard Juli would be there. Juli tried hard to ignore Bryce, but Shelley came over, announcing she was bidding on him. Juli felt a sharp pang of jealousy. A brush with destiny that lingers sweetly. Juli contemplated using her egg money. She decided she wouldn't bid if she didn't have enough cash. But fate intervened. A neighbor prepaid 2 months' worth of eggs, handing her the exact funds. It felt like destiny itself was pushing them together. Bryce stood on stage, filled with hope and nerves. He longed for Juli to bid on him. But Juli used her cash to bid $8 on the strange, shy boy standing before Bryce. Shelley won Bryce with a $50 bid. The narrative's pulse quickens here. At lunch, Bryce ignored Shelley, constantly staring at Juli. Juli pretended coolness, but her heart followed his every move. Bryce finally couldn't take it. He walked over, grabbed Juli's hand, and leaned in for a kiss. He was going to kiss me. All my life I've been waiting for that kiss. Not like this. Not this way. Juli fled. Bryce broke her. Juli, why can't we talk? His friend, Garrett, shouted, you're dating the finest girl on campus, and you blow it for Juli? The nightmare neighbor, the nuisance? Shut up. Bryce fiercely defended her, ending their friendship right there. Heartstrings tugged by the unlikeliest paths. This was Bryce's first time defending her. Juli ran home, determined to ignore him. But Bryce couldn't stop seeking her out for 2 days. Then, she saw him digging a hole in her yard, with her dad's permission. She raged, but then noticed Bryce walking toward her with a sycamore sapling. I could tell from the shape of the leaves and the texture of the trunk. It was a sycamore, ***, he said. As she watched him, she thought, how could anybody ever want to run away from Juli Baker? Layers of longing unfold in quiet beauty. He looked at me with those once again dazzling eyes, she realized. He was still the Bryce she crushed on. All these years, we never really talked. Do you need some help? Yeah. They touched hands again, brought back to that innocent summer. Their awkward beginning, doubt, and distance teach them understanding and cherishing. Love is not confusing words, it's the warmth of affection and quiet persistence. Flip shows us love, like youth, is pure and occasionally clumsy. May everyone meet that special person who makes their heart flutter and who they choose to treat kindly. Whispers of what could be echo through